I think it always affects you. I'm sure you've had the same experience when you have a big part and you're working every single day and it's kind of 18 hours a day and you're grappling with that character. It does affect you for sure. You kind of don't know it on a conscious level, but on a kind of an emotional, kind of atomic level, it really affects you. And in this movie, you know, the kind of moral dilemmas and the kind of paradoxes that the character was grappling with emotionally and morally and psychologically were huge. So it does take a toll, but in a brilliant way. I would never want to whinge about it. You know, it was the biggest, most exhilarating challenge.
Yeah. He has this incredible ability, the ability of a great actor to be empathetic with the audience, to allow them access to his feelings, to his thoughts. And that was really the journey we were on. And the first thing I told him is I'm not looking for any kind of impersonation of the real life Oppenheimer. Use what works for you, use what helps you, gives you something to grab a hold of in the preparation.
And weirdly, when I first started answering questions about this movie, everybody was asking me about the science part of it, and I think that's the most exciting thing for me was like it's a completely unique world. Like despite them meeting in these places, she really has nothing to do with the second chapter of what he decides to do. And that is also part of the downfall of her, is that she was excluded and left behind. And that on top of depression is obviously a nasty cocktail.
And Groves just was, I just thought it was such a fascinating guy who never doubted what he was doing. Like, presented with the kind of most morally complex question maybe ever, and he just has no doubt. He's like completely sure of himself. And finally, I just love the fact that nobody liked him. That was an interesting, and he didn't care, and so that's always a fun thing.
Life,
yeah, I could relate, and
there's no one really making films kind of like Chris, and the way he presents them, and the way he's an incredible writer, amazing with actors, an incredible visual filmmaker, and then like the way he presupposes a level of intelligence in his audience. He never patronizes his audience. So it was a gift, really. It's always been a gift for me every time I've worked with him.
He's able to keep the set, even though I know that this film is so vast and so profound and sort of, it will be very lasting for people. I can see that. But on the set, it felt inviting and intimate and not overwhelming. And he speaks quietly. There's no chaos. He's like curious, he's interested, and he's a great guy.
My visual effects supervisor, Andrew Jackson, was one of the first people I showed the script to, because he said, you're going to see things in this script that we're going to try to achieve, visualizations of the quantum world, leading up to their ultimate outward expression, in the Trinity test of the first atomic device. Computer graphics might seem a natural way to do it, but I find that imagery to be lacking in threat. We wanted images that were beautiful and dangerous, expressive in some more analog sort of way. So I challenged him and his team, who spent a long time figuring out different approaches to achieving these effects. Some very, very microscopic, some of them absolutely vast. And there's a combination of things and a confusion of scale around them. But I think that they gave us things that feel equal parts beautiful and dangerous.
Yeah.
There's nobody working who does movies at this scale where the acting's so good, and where he really understands the intimacy and the humanity of people, but I also understands story and wants to ask big questions, and his films are very ambitious, but they're very human too, and that's why people relate to them.
It's just an incredibly dramatic story, and when I got the opportunity to read American Prometheus, a book that was 25 years in the writing, a really extraordinary piece of work, of great authority. It won a Pulitzer Prize. It had all this information. That gave me confidence, finally, to say, I think I can take on this most dramatic of stories, because I think Oppenheimer's story is the most dramatic I've ever encountered. As a kid growing up in England, in the early 80s, the concern with nuclear weapons in pop culture was enormous. My friends and I, we were 12 or 13 at the time, we all discussed and believed that we would probably die in a nuclear holocaust at some point.